Hello, everyone. My name is Beverly Knox Davis, and thank you for joining us for this amazing episode of the A Brighter Day podcast. You can find us on all platforms. I'm talking YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. So thank you all so much for being with us. We have the esteemed pleasure today of having our special guest, Mr. Raphael Floyd. Hello,
Hello, how you
hello.
doing, Miss Beverly?
Oh,
How you
I am
doing?
awesome, awesome. So this gentleman inspires me each and every single solitary day by sending out some amazing messages, but that's not all that there is to him. Hence the reason we have asked him to be our guest for today. So thank you for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you for
oh my
having me.
gosh. So we would like to know a little bit more about you. He's been coming here to the A Brighter Day Community Hub, him and his beautiful wife. And I just want to let everybody in on this amazingness that I get an opportunity to share with the both of them. So tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, your family, aspirations, so on and so forth, so we all get to know who you are.
Well, hey, like I say, it's a lot. Um, Me personally, I had the typical upbringing. I come from the typical background. Um, We All We Got originated actually from family.
Okay.
My big sister, Latasha, now she's a med tech in Greenwood, South Carolina.
Okay. And that's
And
where you're from, right?
that's where I'm from
Okay.
originally,
Green. Okay.
Greenwood. And she
Greenwood in
used,
the house.
yeah, in the house. She used to say this a lot. I say, sis, let me hold $10. Sis, let me hold $5. And it was her thing. She never wanted me to have to ask anybody else for something.
Mm,
So if she didn't have it, she would give it to me. If she had it, she would give it to me. If she didn't have it, she would give it to me because she didn't want me
wow.
to ask anybody else
Mm-hmm.
for anything. And she was like, and I was like, well, why you do that? She said, we all we got.
Ah, we need every family member to
So
be
I'm
like that,
like,
right?
okay, okay. And so, as I got older, it spun out with myself starting to look at the streets and everything. I've been a part of the streets. I've gang banged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been to jail. Um, I've sold drugs. I've done drugs. You know, and I like to think my spirit was saying to me earlier today. As a matter of fact, in order to meet somebody where they are, you have to have been where they are.
That's right.
It's easier to meet someone where they are when
Mm-hmm.
you've been there, if that makes sense.
You know, that's saying
Um,
that walk a mile in my shoes. And then that way you have been exposed to what I've gone through. But if you
right,
haven't walked in this particular manner that I have, what are you going to say to me? How can you give me advice? Which,
right,
I hear this a lot with like married couples and single people, how you going to tell me if you never been
right.
married,
How can
so
you take
similarly.
how can you take advice from a single person
That's
if you're married?
right. Exactly. So I
Right.
understand exactly what you're saying.
Right. So going on, growing up a little bit, after the game banging, I got old enough. I started getting locked up in and out of jail, and I was into the club and then the fighting, and once you start doing so much of one thing and you see it's not getting you anywhere,
Hmm.
you start to wonder like, wait a minute, what am I doing?
Right.
Like, and my granddad used to say a long time ago, old keys can't unlock new doors.
Ooh, that's good. That's real good.
So if you want to walk in a new place, you have to get rid of the old keys.
Hmm. I
And
agree.
so I never understood that until I got older, and I started having children. And I've been on the homeless side. There were a lot of things, when you go through stuff, sometimes you don't want to tell people what you're going through because you're afraid of the response you're going to get from them.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of things that I went through alone with my children. My son and I were homeless for about 3 years. And I was walking up the street one day And I got blessed with, I saw a guy that I had worked with previously, and he had a car lot.
Okay.
And he blessed me with an 8-passenger van.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm
And
gonna need his number and address.
and my sister, and the thing about this van though was he approved me on the lot right then, no down payment,
Wow.
paid for the insurance to go on the car for me,
Wow.
and let me drive off the lot in that car, me and my son. Now the thing about that van is I have a car, but I don't have a place to stay. So now it's me and my son, but we're not on the streets. We're in the van.
In the van.
We lived out of that van. We lived, and it had this funny little thing in the back where you can maneuver the seats, and you open it at the back, and it was something sort of like a cooler.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
My son had school every day. I had to take him to school every day. I had to ensure I had to be a parent. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
in that van, I went to the store and I pay like $3-4 for a pack of water, 24 waters. And I would take it and let the shades down on the inside. Oh, thinking back to it now, I'm like, oh, we really did this. Like I used to pour bottles of water in that thing to fill it up with water and put a bar of soap in it and let the shades down in order for my son to take a bath in the back of the van. Yeah.
We talking real today, y'all.
Listen,
Real.
I can't tell you nothing that I ain't been through. If I tell you something that I haven't been through, then it's a lie. I'm not gonna tell you a lie. But you know what? Nobody ever knew. Nobody ever knew. I didn't share it with anybody. My family, my friends, my loved one, people that were closer to me than others. And the only person that really knew a lot of things that I was going through then was my wife.
Wow.
She was the only one because then we were just friends. We were just friends. But she used to help me as much as she could, But I toughed it out, because when you go through things, you have to go through things in order to help somebody else through them. And I wouldn't know how to bring somebody else to a door if I haven't walked through the door yet. You know what I'm saying?
That's correct. Well, I appreciate you, sharing that journey. And like you said, a lot of people, don't want people to know from whence they've come. And I think it's important for everybody to just, share your journey. I talk about growing up here in Hoskins and, we didn't have hardly anything. My mom knew how to stretch, our snack was fatback on the table, on the stove, you just run by. But our friends thought we were rich because my mom would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like,
there you go.
Y'all get both, so it's so important to see from whence people have come. And I think it's just wonderful when you can feel comfortable in the skin that you're in to talk about your journey and, from whence, you've come and from where God has brought you from.
Amen.
So with that, tell us about, your business and your radio show. Oh my gosh, he cornered me and he just got me right on, everybody. And I was so impressed. So just tell us about that.
Amen. Let's start with the radio show.
Okay.
Actually, the way I got the radio show, it was a godsend. I have my own radio show. It's Dreamchaser Radio. WDRB Media.
Okay.
Home of inspiration and information, with the voice of 50 nations around the world. And the way I came upon this radio station was I actually was hanging at the radio station out there in the car. And there was a lady that came out of the radio station with a bag full of groceries and, clothes. And she was going to go down to the corner and minister to a homeless man that was on the corner. She wanted to go take it down there to him, but she was afraid because she was a woman. And she was like, oh, on the phone. I don't have anybody to go down there with me. I don't have anybody. So I'm looking out the window, and she points. She said, "Hey." I said, "Hey, how you doing?" She said, "Would you mind walking down here with me, carrying this stuff to this homeless man down here?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. Let's go." I said, "You know what? I can even give him a prayer while I'm down there." So I prayed for him. We prayed for him and grabbed his hands and we lifted him up to the Lord. And after we gave him the stuff, we was coming back and she was like, "Well, tell me your story." And that's when I got into telling her about the nonprofit, We All We Got. And she heard my story. She say, "Huh, you don't look like you've been through any of that."
Wow. And
I
that's what we
said,
all want. Don't not to look like what we've
"What
been
we've been
through.
through,
Oh
right?"
my
And I
goodness.
say, "Oh, really?" She say, "Yeah." She say, "You know what?" She said, "That's an inspiration." She said, "Come on in here and write your name down on this paper."
Wow.
Next week, Dreamchaser Radio.
Oh my
So I'm
goodness.
like, "Oh, wow,
You
God."
see, positioning, being in the right place at the right time, and God just aligned. So I'm always talking about alignment and just being sure that you're in the right space within yourself,
Right.
because I'm sure your personal relationship with the Almighty got you to be in that car, in that parking lot at the right
At that
time,
time,
but
right.
not just for you, also for this lady to help her. But then also the gentleman that you were going, I mean, that blessing that just keeps on giving and giving and
Right.
giving. And then it circled right back to you because you gave of yourself and your
Amen.
time in that moment to pray with someone, to walk with someone, to help carry some items. So I just think we're in a time now that this
That's good.
story right now would just needs to resonate with people. Just giving of yourself from a sincere place, and then watch God boomerang that thing right back to
Amen.
you. I just think it's just amazing. So,
Amen. We also have We All We Got. It's WAWG, and like I said, it originated, childhood with the family, But as I got older, I was taking We All We Got, and I've always had a dream to help people that were homeless, because I've had a lot of people in my family that were dealing with not having a lot of things. And, sometimes family like, go in. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the family is the last place that you can go.
that's true.
And the We All We Got, like I said, I've been homeless. I decided to get it out there and dedicate it leaning more towards men, because like I say, I've been homeless and it was just me, a single dad with children, and everywhere that I went they would help me, but I had to get rid of the child.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if it were that easy for me to get rid of my child, then I would not be here
That's right.
trying to get help for me and my child. And a lot of places that I went to was telling me that they were not equipped to handle a single dad until a single dad with his children, but they were equipped to handle a single mother with her children. And I'm
Right.
like,
That
wow.
happens quite a bit.
And but to me, going through what I was going through in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, God, that's not sexist. Like, why men can't? I mean,
Right.
why can't men be single fathers?
That's right.
Like when you say a single parent, everyone always opens their eyes to like, okay, where's the mother? But why can't it be a man? Why does it always have to be the men that play the crazy role and the running away role? Why women? Why women can't
That's
be?
right.
Do you know that they don't give men the same credibility? Now I understand that it might be more women than it is men,
Right.
in their ratio category. But there are men who face life situations, having children, not having anywhere to go, no job, nothing to eat. Sometimes men need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of a foundation to get their feet plant it and start back. You know what I'm saying? And I know that not because it sounds good, but because I was one that went through it. So I
Absolutely.
decided to start We All We Got, and it's an entity to help everyone, even mentor, the children who are kind of misguided. But it's dedicated more so towards men to help the homeless men who trying to find their way to get back on.
Wow. So I think that's wonderful. And you have, two separate things that you have going on. I do want to come back to both and just kind of ask some questions. But I want to stop for a moment, and because I was looking over your bio, and your bio says that you have a degree and you're working on something else. So talk to us about that. What made you want to get your degrees and focus on, and I want you to be very specific about what you have your degree in and also what you are aspiring towards right now, because I think that's important. Wherever you start doesn't mean that that's where you have to stay. So take the floor.
Okay. And if I'm being totally honest, God knows, I have an associate's degree in audio engineering. I'm also now currently going in for my bachelor's in business administration.
Wow.
Um,
You know what?
I
Congratulations.
thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And honestly, going to school to get my associates in audio engineering, I like school. I paid attention in school. I did my work, football and all that. But when I got older and I got out, school was the only way that I was getting income
Okay.
because I wasn't working. So in order to get the income, or you have to have a certain GPA, you have to pass, you have to. So it was my way to have money coming in under the situation and the circumstances that I was in. So school was it for me. Once I got that associates, I'm like, okay, started looking. It wasn't so much as about the money then. Then it was like, okay, I can do something with this. I can. I want to let me see me something. I want to own something. I can own this. I can get this. I can get that. And then I saw, school is a way, to further your education, but it also opens doors
Yes.
for different things that you can't get to if you don't have. So if I didn't have these degrees, it'll be harder for me to walk in certain doors.
Right. Correct.
But if you have the degrees, now you can walk in certain doors. Sometimes you don't even have to know nothing about what's going on.
That's
If you
true.
if you have degree, if you
Yeah.
if you have degrees and you can do this and you can do that, these people ain't worrying about what you got. Listen, you got your backbone right here.
There you go.
It's already speaking for you. So knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
That prompted me to keep going to get in to get my bachelor's in business administration because I want to own something.
Okay.
My vision,
I love that.
I want a business, not just for me, but to help somebody because it says in the Bible that to whom much is given, much is
It's
required.
required. Yes.
So, everything that God blesses us to receive is not for us to harbor or hold on to. It's for us to help somebody else.
Absolutely.
I'm the type of person, I take the shirt off my back. I actually have taken the shirt off my back. If 35 degrees outside, I've taken my shirt off my back and put it on a homeless man and got back in the car and went home and changed clothes.
Hello, and thank you so very much for tuning in to part one of a two-part series of the A Brighter Day podcast. We thank you so very much, and don't forget to tune in to part two.